Welcome, movie fans, to another episode of Hollow Victories Out of the Ring, the show that is definitely not an excuse to just get me more movie night picks. I'm your host, Matt Presents, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host.
You son of a bitch, you do pick like 80% of what we watch. Hi, I'm Makal.
And, Mitzy's here, too.
Yeah, I was waiting, it's like, introduce me!
I cover most of the games we play, so it's balanced. Mitzy's the only one who's not treated fairly.
That's okay, I like to be a little leech, as I've stated before. I'm the content leech. I just suck the life out of everybody else's content without making any of my own.
You're
At some point I will, I promise.
You're a part of that content.
Yes.
I do, I want this show to be open to just, like, whoever watched the movie with us. So far, that has only been Mitzy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I live with you, so that's just gonna happen.
Yeah, Ed Wood, let's talk about it.
So, we watched Ed Wood because we are discussing his film Glen or Glenda.
Ed Wood.
In an upcoming, Hollow Victories. So we decided to watch the Tim Burton biopic based on Edward D. Wood Jr.'s life, starring Johnny Depp as Ed Wood. We see him as he gets his start making films with his sort of exploitation beginnings, making Glen or Glenda. Then we see him working on his more independent films like Bride and the Monster, and finally it ends with him making the movie he is perhaps most famous for, Plan 9 from Outer Space. It does. That was one thing when I watched this the first time. I'm like, okay, they focused on, like, the 3 movies of his people remember. But, I mean, it gives the movie, like, an uplifting ending when Ed Wood's life didn't have much of an uplifting ending.
Yeah.
How did he die?
I mean, I don't remember. But he was decently
credits.
old. He never found success in his life, and eventually he just, like, started making pornos to pay the bills, you know?
He never found success in his life, but he was shit on in his life. Like, people didn't really respect his work to a point. That isn't to say he didn't have any wins, you know, his friendship with, how do you pronounce that last name? Bella Lugosi? Lugosi. Like, that was a pretty cool thing that he had, and he was clearly someone who respected it enough to keep appearing in his movies.
I mean, not to give spoilers, but we watched Glen or Glenda today, and I was like, you know what? If he's gonna direct porn, he'd probably be damn good at it, actually. That lesbian porn he did in, like, the middle of his movie for no reason. I'd watch a full thing of that.
I saw his movie Orgy of the Dead, and it is so boring. It has the plot of a strip show. It's literally just, like, someone in, like, a monster costume comes out and does a striptease. And that's the whole movie. Like one after the other. Just women dressed up as various ghouls doing striptease.
If I may give my broad thoughts on this, just to make it clear where I'm coming from with this movie... I never saw it before prior to this. It's one that's been on my watch list forever. I mean, well over a decade at this point. I heard of Ed Wood when I was really young, and I never watched it, but I kept like, oh, it's a movie about making movies. That sounds interesting. Now I've gotten older, and I've seen so much of that, and I've seen so much of that done poorly. It can be like a really boring premise for a film now, but Ed Wood like absolutely nails it out of the park. I mean, I you know, everybody has a different definition of this, but I genuinely do consider it like a perfect movie. I'd give it a 10. I absolutely loved it. I loved the whole thing. I loved its presentation. I thought all the acting was good. I don't, you know, I can't tell you how accurate it is to the real story because there are good biopics that lie a little bit. Like films will change things up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Just to make it more cinematic.
Right, and sometimes it's done in a way that's really gross, and other times it's done in a way where it's just like, well, you can see why they did that.
It's like done in a way a lot, I think, where you can just kind of shrug it off. Like,
Yeah.
Oh, they changed a little thing, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, they changed it to make the movie more interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I know at the very least, like, Bela Lugosi did not actually hate Boris Karloff. That's something they made up for the movie.
So that was that was supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
Which is weird because that's probably that was a funny moment, but it's also probably like his least likable scene.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, I like this guy a lot just because he's like, just you know, he is a has-been, but I mean, even has-beens will act pretentious or act like they're better than they are. Like this guy did just agree to be in this nobody's movies, and I think that is like a very charming feature of the character, but also his character, you know, him as a person.
Yeah.
No,
I think I love their friendship. It's so sweet.
Yeah.
Like this movie, I don't know, like it made me very emotional about their friendship and their connection that they have. It's like it's genuinely endearing.
There's that scene like where when you're getting it's not at the very end, but it's close to the end, where he brings him into his house. He's holding a gun up, and he even like says like, "Let's go out together." Like, and I was like, I was like a little bit like, you know, again, it was like, oh, this is probably what actually happened, but I was like bummed out by that because I was like, oh, don't make it one of these, please. And but the way they ended it was like, it kind of went from you know, a creepy scene to just like downright heartbreaking, but the two still stand by each other after that, and that's like, yeah, I know, I definitely felt like a strong connection with those two. I think it's the best part of the movie. I think there's a lot to love about the movie, but I think that like those two, like just their dynamic is the best part of the movie.
Yeah.
No, I mean, Bela Lugosi's like an interesting person. He's like one of the earliest like celebrity rehab stories, right? Like this was a big tabloid thing when he went to rehab. It's like, whoa, Bela Lugosi's gone to rehab, even though like no one had seen him in the movies for probably 10, 15 years at that point.
Yeah.
I think in spite of it being a movie about Ed Wood, talking about his, like, a movie about Ed Wood, who, from what I've seen in Glen or Glenda, he likes to over-explain things a bit. I think this movie did a really good job of show, don't tell. Like, there's the scene of him going to rehab for the first time, and they don't spend a lot of time there, and they don't spend a lot of time just having the characters explain what's going on. It's like, you just see him suffering in that bed, and it's like a really, like, not only sad, but horrific scene to witness.
Yeah.
And I think the movie's just full of great moments like that. I'll be quiet now.
In the past, mental health and like rehabilitation and stuff like that, not the greatest.
Oh yeah.
Not a very pretty past that specific part of the medical field really has.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm staring at my Mary & Max Blu-ray right now.
I mean, I think this might be my favorite Tim Burton movie.
Can you guess what mine is?
I go back and forth between this and Edward Scissorhands sometimes. Oh, yours is Beetlejuice, isn't it?
Oh yeah. Of course.
I like his two movies where Johnny Depp plays someone named Edward.
I feel I don't know, it's a weird thing to say, but I almost like connect with Ed Wood and his need to over-explain things. Because I feel like, no, genuinely, I feel like when you grow up as a person who's kind of like outside of like normal society, or you're like questioned a lot, or you're just a person that does not make sense to a lot of people, like you have like this ingrained need inside of you, especially if you're goddamn neurodivergent. You're like, I have to explain as much as I possibly can, because either A, you're sick and tired of questions, or B, you're sick and tired of being misunderstood. And it's just this like driven, ingrained need from being outcast of like, I have to explain as much as I can't leave any loopholes. You feel like every conversation you have, even every sentence you have, is like a contract, and you're like, I can't leave any loopholes in this contract that I am saying to this person. They have to understand. They have to fully understand what I am saying. And like, that frustration, maybe not the best thing for his film, but, like, I fucking get it.
I mean, I get what you're saying, but, like, he does just, like, he does just say the same thing.
He does
the
repeat
same
himself.
thing over
He's very
and over.
repetitive.
If he were just, like, rephrasing the same thing 3 or 4 times and be like,
no, it's very repetitive.
I get it,
like I said, not a good thing for a movie, but a completely understandable, like, drive inside of a person.
It does accomplish one of the most important things I think a filmmaker can do, which is, like, it's their, I think a filmmaker's film should be their story, and that is definitely a mannerism or trait of Ed Wood, right? Is that he, like, if he's talking about something personal to him, he's going to repeat it. To the average film goer, for people who just want to go, like, just want to sit down and watch a movie, that is going to be something that they're going to make comments about. I did it while watching the movie, like, not even Ed Wood.
No, me too.
We'll talk about that more. We'll talk about that more in the actual episode, but, but studying a director is also something I like to do, and that's Ed Wood, that seems like it was who he was.
That's just what he's like.
And I think that's why, like, the story of Ed Wood has endured. I think that's why so many people are drawn to Ed Wood's movies and drawn to this movie, drawn to Tim Burton's telling of the events.
Yeah.
Because Ed Wood is a guy who just put a lot of himself into his movies.
Yeah.
He made movies because he loved movies.
Yeah, no. I think, I say this, like, even if a movie is, like, on the technical level, on the quality level, on, like, whatever, like, cold, hard, like, pure quality kind of review you're giving something, you, at the very least, I think it means absolutely nothing if you don't have some form of appreciation for someone putting themselves into something.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know. I think he's a very relatable person.
Absolutely.
I'm not kidding. He is a relatable guy. Like, in the movie, in what I've seen that he has made, The One Thing, he is a relatable person because he puts so much of himself out there. Like, he feels like like, as much as I say, as flawed as it is, like, it feels human. Like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. One
of my favorite things about this movie, I'd say my second favorite thing about it, outside of just its presentation, is because this is something that I actually connected with him. Like, this is something that it was like looking into a mirror of, like, my past, seeing him do this, is him filming a shot where something deliberately goes wrong, like part of the set breaks, and he just wants to continue. And for a lot of people, they would view that as laziness. For him, it's just he's so excited to move on and get to the next part. Like, I felt that so much with him. He is having the time of his life doing these movies. Like, this means so much to him. And he just wants to get... I mean, part of it's also because he's on a fucking tight budget and he wants the movie to get made. But it's like, he's not a perfectionist, but he genuinely loves what he's doing the entire time he's doing it. And that's me in a lot of my, like, filmmaking past, where it's like, I was so worried that we weren't going to be able to finish filming before, like, someone had to leave or someone had to, like, or before it got too dark out. And I would just say fuck it so frequently. But it wasn't from a place of carelessness. It was from a place of, I just want it to be done. I just want to make it. And whatever cuts in the quality have to be made to make it happen, I'm okay with that. I'm going to compare it to The Disaster Artist a little bit, because they're two movies with very similar goals that completely, like, one does a way better job than the other.
Yes.
Disaster Artist, I dislike how many times in the movie someone on the set criticizes what Tommy Wiseau is doing, because I don't know how truthful that is. Like, I mean, because it's like, okay, as the movie goes on and people get frustrated, it makes more sense. But at the beginning of the movie, like, it's like Seth Rogen is commenting on every single thing that, like, an internet reviewer said about his movies. It's like, with Ed Wood, like, it takes a while for his crew to speak up about, like, some of the sloppiness of his shots, because it's like, in most cases, you're gonna listen to your director. You're not gonna constantly be fighting your director. But I think The Disaster Artist takes that approach because it's like, oh, there's so much, like, comments made on the internet. We got to get those comments into the movie,
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me in The Disaster Artist. With Ed Wood, I like how it's like you can kind of see like the crew members making like kind of giving him a look for a second, like, oh, are we really moving on? Okay, and then like only as the film is getting deeper and deeper into production, and he gets like let more and more careless. They're like, I mean, the set kind of just fell apart there. Like when he hit the door, like you could see like the set shaking or something. Should we like maybe get a second take of that? And he says, no, moving on. I liked that. It felt very real to me. Anyways, Mitzy, go ahead.
I also, Ed Wood just seems like a very, like, he's a sweetheart.
Yeah.
He's so sweet. Like, I wouldn't doubt that, like, people just let him do whatever he wants and make this movie because he's just very charming. Like, I do not doubt that so many people went along with what he wants to do because he's just a sweetie. And it's like looking at him is like looking at a puppy. You don't want to fucking break his heart.
I mean, there's like the line in there where Bill Murray's talking about he convinced all his friends to get baptized so he could make a monster movie.
Yeah.
Also, that was the other thing I wanted to say. It is so jarring to see Bill Murray in this movie. I don't know why. Like, all of the other modern actors in this movie, they feel totally in place. Bill Murray, I'm like, you should not be here.
This feels like a proto version of like Bill Murray being in like all of Wes Anderson's films and being in like Lost in Translation. Like this is like the turning point where he goes from like comedy actor to like appearing in more serious stuff.
Yeah. No, I was like, Bill Murray, you should not be here. Bill Murray, what are you doing here?
It's all kind of like silly, quirky stuff, but
William Murray, please get off the set.
What I love about this film is like Tim Burton emulates some of Ed Wood's style. He definitely there's stuff from Ed Wood's movies that he has put into this. But at the same time, this is a very well-made movie.
Oh, yeah.
Right? This is, like, an exceptionally well-made movie. It's shot beautifully. Mm-hmm. There's some beautiful cinematography in this.
Oh, my God, yeah.
They really made the black and white work for them.
It's wonderful. Like, it's not the first shot of the movie, but it's one of the first establishing shots of Hollywood. The way that they, like, kind of have, like, different parts of the town lit up through the lightning that's going off in the background as you're, like, slowly zooming down to the studio where this play is happening. Like, that was just, like, an amazing certain shot. But they're like, it goes beyond that. He makes some of Ed Wood's shots look nicer, you know?
Yeah.
And, but it's still capturing Ed Wood's work, though, too.
Yes. No, like, you get a real feel for, like, Ed Wood's movies and what they're like through this. So I think Tim Burton did a really good job. I think it's an extremely well-directed movie. Very well done visually. And I think it's an extremely well-acted movie. Like, I love, like, all the performances in this.
I do, too.
Like, the highlight is, I think, Martin Landau as, Bela Lugosi.
I agree.
Like, he is so good in this. And he does it so good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He does the voice, like, perfect.
And he looks the part really well,
yeah,
too.
Watching Glen or Glenda, it just looked like him. It looked like the same person I saw in Ed Wood.
I forgot he was dead for a little bit. That's not just suspension of disbelief right there. They forcibly suspended my belief. They took my belief away from me and put it on a shelf where I can't reach it.
Johnny Depp as Ed Wood is also, like, really good.
Yeah.
I think this is, like, one of his best performances.
It might be my favorite performance I've seen from him. I'm not like... What would you say?
Probably Edward Scissorhands, actually.
I haven't seen that one, honestly.
Okay. I love that movie. But I mean, like, this was, like, in the 90s, Johnny Depp was, like, a really good actor.
Oh, yeah.
Even in the 2000s, he had, like, Pirates of the Caribbean.
You don't even really know what he's doing lately. Like,
Yeah, I don't know if he's...
getting sued.
Yeah.
You know?
That did happen.
Or suing? I don't know.
Was it a mutual... Can people sue each other mutually?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
It's a question
counter-sue.
of was it... Yeah, they can counter-sue. I was saying I don't know if it was... He was on trial for abuse or he was suing the other lady, Amber Heard, for defamation, for saying she abused him.
I think
I don't remember.
I think it's possible that both things were happening at different times.
Possibly.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like, yeah, it's one of those things I just try to ignore. Like it was all anyone was talking about for like 2 months, and now it's like people are still trying to talk about it. It's just like, all right, let these two just deal with their bullshit.
We're talking about it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Let's not talk about it anymore.
Yeah. Isn't it weird how Beetlejuice is like the only Tim Burton movie Johnny Depp is not in? That's inaccurate. That's inaccurate, but...
He's not in Planet of the Apes or Pee-wee's Big Adventure. The supporting cast is also pretty good.
Yeah.
You had Patricia Arquette and shoot, I'm blanking on the actress's name.
Sarah Jessica Parker
as his like Sarah Jessica Parker is like the woman he's dating at the beginning, but she leaves him because because he's a cross-dresser, and that's like a big part of the story.
I want to address something that they mentioned in the movie. Why the fuck does everybody say she looks like a horse? She looks like a normal-ass person. I don't understand.
I think this movie started the joke of, like, Sarah Jessica Parker looks like a horse. I don't think that, like, I think that meme comes from this movie. And then Patricia Arquette is the woman he dates after her. And both of them do very well in this movie.
Yeah.
I love his conversation with her on the spooky ride. I think I think that was very sweet.
I do like that too, because I think that it's like as scary as a thing, especially after watching Glen or Glenda, because that's like the dilemma that character is going through in that movie. And then he, like, you know, not being open about it. You know, like, you can be mad at her for not accepting it, but you can also acknowledge that it took a very long time for that truth to come out. I understand it was a different, like, it's, even now it's scary to do that, but at the time, like, especially, it was scary to do that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, it's a really good scene because it's like he is aware that he might be setting himself up for heartbreak if he doesn't come out with it. And it goes well for him, and I'm happy. And in real life, it went well for him, and I'm happy about that. Because those two stayed together the whole time. They did not end in divorce for them.
I love that.
Jeffrey Jones as Criswell is like perfect casting. He looks just like Criswell. I know we didn't watch Plan 9. We'll have to watch Plan 9 somewhere, somehow. It's public domain. We could just, like, live stream it and commentate over it.
That sounds like fun. We should do that. That sounds like so much fun.
Yeah.
But Jeffrey Jones looks so much like Criswell. It's perfect casting.
Nice.
And we mentioned Bill Murray as Bunny Breckenridge.
He's funny in this. I like him.
Oh yeah, no, he's funny. Ironically, the movie I was going to show you guys for movie night, though we then watched this instead. The main character of that is named after Bunny Breckenridge. Vincent D'Onofrio plays Orson Welles, but he's clearly dubbed by Lorenzo Music? Is Lorenzo Music the one who voiced the brain? Or am I getting that wrong? I'm sorry, Maurice LaMarche. Maurice LaMarche is dubbing him with his like spot-on Orson Welles impression.
That's the one thing in the movie where I'm questioning, like, okay, did that happen?
Yeah, that probably wasn't true.
Yeah.
Ed Wood probably never met Orson Welles.
What about at Vampira?
Well, Vampira was in Plan 9.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
She actually, like, was in the movie.
And even if
I don't know if that's how he met her.
And even if he did meet Orson Welles, it probably wasn't, like, right when he needed it at a bar.
In full drag in the middle of the production of his big movie.
Yeah, but you could say maybe it's like metaphorical for him kind of reminding himself of why he's there.
Yeah.
Because Orson Welles was clearly like a big inspiration for him.
Yeah, no, I think it works in the story, even if it is not strictly true.
Yeah, it might be like, I wonder if that's the same case with like the Fablemans recently. With, I mean, to be fair, that's like, that one's like deliberately like only partially true. Like it's mixing fiction with reality, but there's a fun little cameo at the end of that movie too.
Anyways,
Did you guys have a favorite scene?
that's hard. I like the scene where they're like filming on set with Bella, where he's doing his monologue for Glen or Glenda.
Yeah, I like that too.
I also I really like the producer on Glen or Glenda who keeps yelling at him.
Yeah. And like that guy is like, they definitely paint him in a negative light. I will say I was amazed by how far he let him get with that. Like, I feel like you wouldn't meet a guy today who's that big of a dick, but also lets you get that far with the project.
Like I said, you can't take it away. He's a puppy. You can't take it away from him. Like, he'll get mad, but like, okay. You keep your movie. I like the part where they all get baptized.
Yeah. And that is true. That is something that actually happened.
That's just fucking funny.
He got the funding for Plan 9 from a Baptist church.
Oh, and not the silly answer, but I really like the part where he's filming the last footage of Bela Lugosi.
Yeah.
I love that scene between them. That was really sweet.
I was gonna name that as my favorite part. Yeah, I liked that scene a lot. Another thing I really appreciated about this movie was just like, again, I don't know how much they're changing for this being a biopic, because most of what I know about Ed Wood has come from first watching this movie a few days ago. It's been like almost a week now. And then just kind of doing like a little bit of research on my phone just out of curiosity, because it has made me more interested in Ed Wood. So I'm not like an expert on this. I'm sure that there's some things they changed up, but as a whole, it did feel very honest. Like, again, gonna bring up Disaster Artist. Disaster Artist is not a bad movie. It's just like, It could have been an Ed Wood.
I love the book, The Disaster Artist. I think the book is like one of the best written things I've ever read, because it does strike a very good balance between like sympathizing with Tommy Wiseau, showing Tommy Wiseau as a human being, and also showing how silly and strange and frankly awful he could be at times.
Yeah.
And the movie is a Seth Rogen comedy. And
right.
It's like a good Seth Rogen comedy. It's funny, but it could have been so much more.
It is very weird having the characters, I already said this before, but just having the characters in the movie make comments that people have been making on the internet for years. It's like, that is not what it was like. I wasn't there, but I guarantee you that is not what it was like filming that movie.
I mean, you do have the scene in this movie where they go to, like, the screening of Bride of the Monster and everyone's just, like, throwing shit everywhere.
Yeah, no, that was wild to me. I was watching that, and I was like, why? The movie hasn't even started yet.
That was a scene I didn't understand.
Why form an angry mob about it? Like, what the fuck?
If I'm not mistaken, that is, like, kind of based on something that happened. Like, there was the crowd was too rowdy at the premiere of Bride of the Monster, and like everyone left before the movie was over. But the way it's portrayed in the film, it's a little confusing.
Yeah, it's like, it looks like they're going to fucking riot. Like,
yeah.
It looks like they're going to riot and they haven't even seen the movie yet. So it's like, are they angry the movie hasn't started yet? Or are they angry that the movie's bad, because they can't be angry that the movie's bad yet because it hasn't started, but then when it starts they're still upset, so it's like, okay, so they're not angry that it took too long to start the movie.
They're just angry to be here. They just all got mad for no reason.
So yeah, actually I guess I have to, like, I'm still gonna give it a 10 because that's not enough for me to detract I don't think that's enough for me to detract a point, but it is, like, I guess I can't call it perfect because I do think that was a weirdly executed scene.
I think it's the one odd scene of the film.
Yeah.
Everything else I enjoy.
Yeah.
I don't even call it a scene, just a line of dialogue where Bill Murray is casually talking about getting a sex change, because I can't look at this character and see anything other than Bill Murray out of place.
I have been able to see Bill Murray and stuff where I don't just see him as Bill Murray, but...
This movie did not, like, I was like, Bill Murray, you are out of your element. You are not I don't know, something, like, was taking him out of place for
That's fair enough.
Like, you are not supposed to be here. Not that he didn't do a good job. My brain refused to not see Bill Murray.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing gay, and he's playing it a little femme, a little camp.
Which isn't something I've ever seen him do.
Yeah.
So I guess that's the disconnect my brain had.
Just to finish my point, because I'm getting way too off, like, I'm having a hard time staying on focus, is that I appreciate how honest this movie was, because another thing I didn't like about the Disaster Artist, and, you know, if I'm spewing shit out of my mouth and someone in the comments is like, you're wrong about this, and I know you're wrong about this, feel free to, like, leave a comment and correct me, but people did not react, like, at the end of the Disaster Artist, people did not react positively to it, the Room, when they were at the premiere. That was, like, it wasn't just, oh, Tommy Wiseau was upset that people were laughing at him, and then, but then he came back in and was a good sport about it. No. Tommy Wiseau was not a good sport about it until he realized there was something to gain. And people, it took a long time for the Room to get, like, any sort of appreciation. It is appreciated now.
Yeah. I think what people appreciate about the Room is that it is so disconnected from reality.
Oh yeah.
Like,
it's the story of Tommy Wiseau.
I think that's what makes it, I think that's what makes it so interesting, is how disconnected from reality it is.
Yeah, Fateful Findings is the story of Neil Breen. Cool Cat Saves the Kids is the story of Derek Savage. It's like, it's a weird thing to say, but, like, these directors' personalities come out in these movies. And yes, we are laughing at them. A lot of the time, it does kind of feel like you're laughing with them, too. Because you do, like, if you're able to sit down and, like, you're finished laughing at the movie, now you're focused on the person behind it. Except for Derek Savage. We're all laughing at Derek Savage, but...
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, for Tommy Wiseau, he just fascinates me. Because first of all, he has no origin. Like,
oh yeah,
he just appeared one day. Like, that freaks me out. He's almost like a cryptid in that sense, that he doesn't have a birth to his, like, he doesn't have a birth, he doesn't have a childhood, he doesn't, like, he just appeared one day. That's what it feels like. He just manifested into this world, and that's what makes him so fucking intriguing. Like, and he talks, and he acts, and he behaves in a way that feels like somebody who just appeared on Earth one day.
Oh yeah.
Like...
I hope a better filmmaker than James Franco gives it a second go eventually. The thing is, I don't know if it will, because it's not like the Disaster Artist was hated or anything. Like, it was seen as an acceptable Tommy Wiseau movie, and I would agree it's an acceptable Tommy Wiseau movie, but I don't think Tommy Wiseau is nearly as charming as Ed Wood. You would have to paint him as, like, kind of a bad person throughout a lot of it. You could humanize him like the book does, like Matt said, but I think that you would have to show his darker side, and the Disaster Artist doesn't shy away from that. They show him being a real shithead in that, but it just lacks so much personality. When I say it could have been an Ed Wood, I mean he is an interesting enough person to make a 10 out of 10 movie.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be like Ed Wood. It can be its own thing, but the material is there.
Yeah, no, I just want Tommy Wiseau to take a DNA test Where are you from? What are you?
Hey,
Who are your parents?
Maybe he'll release some sort of like biography when he dies, and someone can make a movie out of that.
I hope he does. I want to know the history of this man.
But yeah, with Ed Wood, I appreciate how honest the ending was. They do find a way to give him a happy ending by focusing on his like love life a bit at the end, which is something that again they stayed married. So, you know, it sounds like they probably had some hardships, but in the end they stayed together. So it's kind of an easy thing to like help end the movie on a positive note. But the people in the theater aren't like, oh, they know Ed Wood, he's gonna be a legend one day. You know, they're like thinking, what the fuck is this? Like,
yeah.
And I like that, and I appreciate how like the text at the end of this like film like expressed like stating what the rest of his life was like. It's not shying away from the harsh reality. Like this movie is paying respect to Ed Wood, but it's not going to lie for him, and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
because I don't think it should.
Yeah, I appreciate how gay this movie is willing to get, how much this movie is willing to address like the gay elements of Ed Wood's films and his life, because this did come out in like 94.
Yeah,
which is kind of weird. It kind of doesn't feel like it's from 94, but then I couldn't really say when it feels like it's from. It just feels like it existed one day. It does feel like a timeless movie to me.
Yeah, it could have been made today, like because it's like it has an aesthetic that you could try to recreate today. You know, like you could make a movie that looks like Ed Wood and it would still look good by today's standards.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think would like turn that off is just the age of the actors, but that's it.
Yeah. So yeah, I sort of it was sort of bold to just like this dude was a crossdresser. He hung out with a bunch of gay people, and that's like part of who he was and what made his films the way they were.
Yeah.
I knew nothing about him going into this, and when he said that, I like to wear women's clothing to the one producer as like a way to sell him, I thought he was just lying. I thought that was like, at first, when I first saw that scene, I was like, oh, he's like trying to convince him to get the movie made. But very quickly after that, you learn, they go into that. They really do. They spend a decent bit of time on that at the beginning of the film. And, I thought that was interesting. I did not, I've heard about this movie, like I said, for over a decade, and I did not know that was part of who he was, And I think, I'm not, you, Mitzy, Chris are going to be better at talking about that than me, but I thought it was handled really well.
Yeah. No, I agree. I sent you the screenshot of, I gave this film a 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and everyone else I follow has also given it a 5 out of 5.
Wow.
So, I decided to go through all the movies I've given a 5 out of 5 to and see how many, everyone I follow has given, a 5 out of 5. At least everyone I follow who's reviewed it has given it a 5 out of 5. And, you know which one had the most 5 out of 5s?
Who? Which one?
The Thing.
The Thing?
John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah?
Almost everyone I follow has rated it, and all of them have given it 5 out of 5.
I don't have it at, a 10, but I also, I think I should rewatch it, because I liked it the first time I saw it, but, I feel like I could get more of it.
That movie scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
I enjoyed it a lot. I was, extremely tired when I watched it.
It deserves the 5 out of 5.
I also love Ed Wood. You know who else loved Ed Wood? You know who called Ed Wood one of his top 10 favorite movies?
I feel like I read a trivia thing on that. I'm gonna guess, but I might. Okay, I'm gonna guess it's Roger Ebert.
I was gonna say Doug Walker.
Oh yeah. No, I think that's how I heard of Ed Wood. I think that's the first recommendation I got for Ed Wood was Doug Walker. I remember reading something. Oh, actually, I might be thinking of how David Lynch said Glenda is one of his favorite movies.
We were watching Glen or Glenda with subtitles on, and the subtitles were way wrong sometimes. And that is not going to be a thing that I get to talk about when we talk about the movie, because I will have forgotten.
The home for sexuals.
I'll remember that part. It was home was sexual.
Oh, home was sexual. Home was very sexual those days.
Home was sexual.
Well, do you guys have anything else to say about Ed Wood?
I'm good. Great movie.
My one ending note is that I really want Criterion to release a version of this because it sits on my shelf. I have my movies alphabetized, and it's right between, like, 5 other Criterion movies.
I see.
It's like Easy Rider, Eating Raoul, Eraserhead, and I want to say The Elephant Man, all right next to each other. Oh, and Election. Election's in there. And then it's just Ed Wood, and I'm like, this one DVD in the middle of these 5 Criterion movies. Plus, if Criterion did a release of it, they could put, like, Plan 9 as a bonus feature. And then we could say Plan 9 has a Criterion release.
I have nowhere near the collection Matt has, but I've been slowly starting a Blu-ray collection. I don't want to go crazy with it. I just want to buy my favorite movies.
Matt has more movies than all of the streaming service libraries combined.
I'm not sure that's true.
Matt, start your own illegal streaming service. Matt. HBO Matt.
HBO Max.
HBO Max isn't using HBO anymore.
As of today, they've dropped the HBO from their name. So
I know.
I'm taking it.
Yeah.
I'll take that name. A lot of goodwill attached to it. Yeah, it's just called Max.
And Ruby?
Yes.
It's a horrible name. It's like, why this is so, like, call it like Warner Brothers Max at least.
Yeah.
Something. The problem, the reason they did this is because they have a lot of children's programming, but parents weren't buying it for their kids because, like, oh, HBO, that's like an adult channel.
Yeah.
So
Warner
they're dropping,
Max would have made more sense.
Yeah, they're dropping the HBO, but call it Warner Max. Max is nothing. There's 1,000 other things called Max.
Oh, I hope that they lose a lot of service for that, but they're not allowed to change it back for a while. I think that would be deserved considering their last year of actions.
Absolutely. Fuck them.
But I got, like, I was saying, my small Blu-ray collection so far, because like I said, I'm only going for my, like, absolute favorites, is Synecdoche, New York, Mary Max, and Whiplash. Oh, and Punch Drunk Love, I got that one too, but I got that one, like, years ago. But I am gonna get Ed Wood if they have a Blu-ray of that, which I'm sure they do.
The most DVDs I have are doll movies. It's like the Barbie movies, the Bratz movies, the Monster High movies, like all of those.
Yeah.
Trolls count as a toy movie, too.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's going to wrap it up for this episode of Hollow Victories Out of the Ring. Thank you for joining me, Michael. Thank you for joining the both of us, Mitzy.
Yes, you're welcome. You have been graced with my presence.
And we'll do that episode soon. That you will also be in.
I'm looking forward to it.
Make sure to watch Glen or Glenda versus Ben and Arthur on the main channel.
I am looking forward to that pair because I'm genuinely curious because I've heard Ben and Arthur is hilarious, and I almost felt like that might be an unfair advantage to Glen or Glenda. But now I'm also attached to Glen or Glenda because of, like, the context. So now I'm wondering if that's an unfair advantage to Ben and Arthur. Like, I have no idea which way this is going to go, and I'm excited for it.
Oh yeah, I know this is going to be an interesting one. Stay tuned for that. And until next time, for my co-host Makal, I'm Matt Presents.
I'm Mitzy.
Peace.